What's going on, social media? I'm just gonna bypass naming all the channels since we're everywhere. This is
That's the thing to do, Kevin. That's the thing to do.
episode 52, and I finally figured that out. I don't have to go Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Anyway, today we have a special guest, Hilary Corna, and we have all our co-hosts with us tonight. So, Hilary, why don't you introduce yourself?
I personally like the OCO introduction. Just got to run with it. Hello, everyone. My name is Hilary Corna. I am the former Senior Executive Officer for Toyota Motor Asia Pacific out in Singapore back in our heyday of time. And since then have written and released a book called One White Face that is now being turned into a screenplay. I am working on my second book now that is coming out in September of this year called Unprofessional, a Manifesto. So I'm sure we'll go into that a little bit, what that actually means. But I'm the founder of The Human Way. So I help companies humanize their operations. So when it comes to drip campaigns, automation emails, websites, Google advertisements, how do we humanize as a way to connect with our customers and drive better results for our businesses? So, and I personally just launched my own podcast a couple months ago called Unprofessional. So I'm all about showcasing human-centric leaders and people that don't normally get recognized.
Perfect.
Ooh,
So
that's
you're
really
the
cool.
perfect fit for this episode. So in March, we've been doing this kick on career, right? And how do we set ourselves apart? How do we brand ourselves? And today we could talk about how do you just be you, right? And I like your hashtag. It says "fuck the mold." So, tell us a little about that.
Yeah, it was really uncomfortable when I first started using this, even for myself. But what happened was I wrote a really vulnerable post on LinkedIn about how I was essentially kind of attacked on IG for supporting Asian communities by a white man. And he was just like, why don't you just get to the message? Why aren't you more concise? And I said, why don't you spend less time criticizing others and more time, doing something to help? And essentially I woke up the next morning and I was just like, you know what? I'm fucking sick of being nice. I'm sick of being polite. I'm sick of trying to talk a certain way to earn respect of a certain type of person. And that's what I was trying to do for him, was, show up a certain way. And I just wrote this really vulnerable post on LinkedIn and I was like, I'm sick of trying to be not white. I'm sick of trying to be older than what I am because I'm just young for what I've accomplished in my life, all these things. And then it kind of went viral and everyone was like, yeah, fuck the mold. And this one guy was like, fuck the mold. And I was like, oh my God, I'm stealing that hashtag. And then I showed it to my team and they were like, oh my God, you cussed on LinkedIn. I'm like, I don't give a flying fuck anymore. I don't have a boss. I have no one I need to show up a certain way for. Why can't I'm telling everyone else to be themselves? So this is what I'm saying. Fuck the mold. The very things that make us so unique and valuable are often the things we hide and quiet and suppress. So fuck the mold. Be yourself.
So let's talk about that a little. So the way we do this show is, like I said, it's very casual, and we kind of go round table where whoever wants to talk, we just take turns. So
Kevin.
Yep.
Kevin, fuck the mole. Just talk.
That's awesome.
Just talk.
No, just kidding. Just
Just
kidding.
talk. So let's talk about what does it mean to you? Each one of us here being yourself. So you hear that a lot right now, right? On social media, it's everywhere. Hey, let's be authentic. Let's be genuine. Be yourself. Showcase your journey. What does that mean really to you? How do you translate that?
So I'll vanguard this real quick before we get started, if that's all right, because I do want to say this isn't really pie in the sky fluff ideas. This is actually very tactical from a company's perspective. Fuck the mold, because the last 10 years have been all about standardization, replication. How do we scale our companies with machine-like efficiency? I mean, that's what Toyota became famous for, which is what I helped Toyota do. But the funny thing is, over the last 10 years in doing so, we've created these standards that we have to oblige by that don't treat people like humans, these checklists, these rigid robotic processes that don't allow people to be themselves and go with the flow. And that's why you have call centers where you're dehumanized. You have experiences at the airport where you feel like a number because they say, oh, the system won't let me do that. Because our employees are taught not to think for themselves. They're taught to follow the mold, right? And so fuck the mold, meaning like, how do you actually show up as a company and as an individual more of yourself as a way to differentiate from other people that do everything just like you? And so if you're competing in a marketplace and you sell a widget A, whatever that widget is, and you're trying to compete based on the product and feature set, eventually you're going to be run into the ground because of pricing, right? Someone's going to do it better and cheaper and faster than you eventually. So how do you compete on another level, which is because of who you are? And that's what you can then apply to the individual side of it. Instead of competing because I do content strategy or I do SEO or whatever, eventually there's going to be someone else that does it cheaper, faster, or smarter than you. So how do you compete because of who you are, not because of what you do? So I'd love to hear your stories personally of that.
Not a personal story, but I recently saw something on a web page, and they were trying to say how different they are in terms of customer service, and they actually put the number there and they bracket, yes, you'll be serviced by a human when you call this number. That's a differentiation. Yeah, exactly. It's always press 1 for English, press 2 for blah blah, press this 3 for whatever. But this company actually put the number and said, yes, you'll be a human in contact with you, not a bot. And that was
why do you
very
think
refreshing.
That is? Yeah.
Because everyone's exactly what you said. Everyone's sick of this so-called automation and efficiency. And we really, all we want to do is to speak to something. And by the way, this company is a boutique computer assembly company. So they build customized computers for you. So it's quite likely that when you call, you have a very technical or very specific question, right? Yeah. It's not going to fall into any mold, right? Press 1 for CPU, press 2 for graphic cards. No, I don't think so, right? The list will be so long. So it made sense to me. And it's exactly what you said.
Jen, did you have a story you were going to say?
I'm still processing.
I talk very fast.
That's a typical Singaporean trait.
I know. I developed it. I blame you.
I typically talk a lot, but I'm trying to learn to listen, and I'll jump in here in a minute.
Beautiful.
That's very unlike you.
What are you seeing in Singapore around these conversations? Is there a similar trend happening of really embracing the individual and the uniqueness of identities?
Go ahead, Jeremy. Go ahead.
Aldrich, please correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think so. It's still very the mold, because the mold is still, go into preschool, go to a good primary school, parents will move their houses to be next into famous or really good schools, and then get into a good secondary school, get into university, get a good job, get married, get a big house, get a car, get etc., right? Yeah, so that's like the mold, which I think fortunately or unfortunately, depending how you see it, whether I'm sour grapes or not, I don't fall into that. No big house, I don't even have a car, so yeah.
I think from my perspective, just growing up, having both cultures being, I was born in Hong Kong, but moved to the States when I was 6, right? I think identity is hard when you're Asian. You're taught a certain way. You're born into a family, even though I live in America and it's all about being yourself, embracing your dreams. At my home, it wasn't about that. They might say it's about embracing your dreams, but it's mom and dad's dreams too, and a lot of it is, You have in the back of your mind, there's this overpowering shadow that's telling you who you are.
Mm.
Now, you can embrace your dreams, after you get your degree in engineering or a doctor or lawyer. Then you can embrace all you want. You want to be an artist? Go take some art classes after you get your 6-figure job. It isn't truly embracing your dreams. It's not like a lot of Americans today. If you want to be a YouTuber, you turn 18, even 16, you can be a YouTuber. You can dance around on TikTok. And you don't have that pressure. And a lot of times, even your parents are like, oh, look at Johnny. Oh, he's so cute. My mom would go, what the hell are you doing? You look stupid. It's just a total different mindset.
Don't disgrace yourself and your family,
like,
that kind of thing, right?
Hey, it'll be like, you dancing around, is that gonna pay the bills? What are you doing? Like, I can look back, if YouTube was around when I was 16, my dad would have hit me with a chopstick and go, you go make 10 cents a day after a million views. You can spend that time doing like 500 other things. So it's hard when you grow up like that. It's hard even when you get out. You grow up, you get your college job, and you go out there in the real world, and you're just submissive. You just learn to, hey, you go to a big boy job, you work really hard, and you give everything you got, because that's what mom and dad told you most of your life, right? Mm-hmm. And you just stay quiet. You just submit. That's our culture. And if you don't like something, wait till the next opportunity that pays you more, and you get the interview and you get the job before you ever say anything. So sometimes you get into these abusive situations and you just take it. Yeah, and all your life you're told, swallow your pride. It's okay, okay. In the Asian culture, it's just long suffering.
Yeah.
And your parents teach you, look at the dramas we watch. Look at all this stuff. It's long suffering. And by long suffering, eventually you'll get to the Holy Grail, which is your 6-figure income and a big house, Mercedes, right? But, and then you can go tell, they can go tell their friends that their son has this amazing job at Toyota or wherever as an elite engineer. That's how we are born. That's how we're taught. So even though there's Asian Americans out there, that are just as American as all the Americans out there, but we do live a little different because we do have pressure from both sides, right? You have pressure from your schoolmates that you grow up around, the Americans, and they're free. They can go party and go drinking when they turn 18 and go have fun, right? But it's not the same for us, even if we want to, because our parents don't really they don't endorse that behavior. So there's all this stuff. So then you're just kind of, Jen's married to me, so she knows. Even in the business world, you're not 100%. You feel kind of out of place in the identity who you are, because I'm not really Asian. I haven't been there since I was 6. I haven't lived there, but I'm not really American either, or accepted by everyone the same way. So I think there's always, when you're talking about being yourself, for an Asian American, sometimes it's hard to identify who we are.
Yeah. Well, and you raise a good point of the judgment that comes from being yourself. And it's very real. Like me posting that viral post on LinkedIn and the guy attacking me on IG, I'm trying to be myself and care for the communities that I care for and take a stance against discrimination towards Asian Americans. And then you take a stance and then you just get attacked, right? Yep. And so there's a very true reality that comes with being yourself, which is you have to understand and be ready to react to people who don't agree with you. Because a lot of people are mediocre. A lot of people are agreeable. We're taught to be agreeable as a way of getting along. But the greatest irony is no one follows people that are agreeable.
Yep.
And so the question we always have to ask ourselves as individuals, as people in the world that coexist with others, the question we have to ask ourselves is like, who's making up these rules where I'm right or wrong because of what I'm saying or believing? Who's making these rules that, you know, me not wearing a blazer and committing to never wearing a fucking blazer again as a woman, like that's okay. And then if I show up wearing this or a t-shirt the way a man would in a business meeting, and if they judge me, I have to be okay with being judged. And I think no matter what intersection of your identity comes into play, like being yourself takes bravery. And I haven't always been brave like that. I think it's because of the community and the people I surround myself with, and, you know, yourself included, like paying attention to those that are being brave in their own way allows us to all be braver together. And so it's just being
at the same time, it's like you said, it's hard being yourself, right?
Oh, it ain't easy.
Because it depends on the position you're in too, right? Hey, if you're not financially able and you're dependent on that job, can you truly be yourself and just speak your mind? And you might have that, you know, percentage, you might lose your job, you know.
I have lost clients for the very same reason that I have gained clients.
Yep, exactly.
I have lost clients because I didn't show up professional enough, because I didn't have a team big enough, because I cuss sometimes. Like I've lost clients because I'm too young, because I'm a woman. Yep. And I've very much lost clients for the exact same reasons, that they're like, oh, you're young. That's great. We need fresh talent. Oh, you're a woman. That's great. Oh, you don't show up this stuffy suit person. Like, great. Like, we want you. And so the irony is there's like in operations, we call it sometimes, good morning, Joseph. We call it sometimes client abandonment, which is like, as you shift your model into the customer segment that you're trying to sell to and the product that you're trying to sell to, sometimes there's client abandonment where there's like a drop off of clients because you're letting go of these clients from the past. And then as an individual, you go through a very similar experience, which is like sometimes when you show up as yourself, you have to let go of those people that were like, oh, wow, they never wanted me to be myself.
And that's something I'm learning too as an entrepreneur, right? The more I'm myself, the more I start attracting what I call my tribe.
Yep.
The people who actually appreciate me for me. There's a problem when you have to try to be someone else. And I always look back, it's almost like the whole relationship thing, right? If you gotta work too hard as a guy for a girl, most likely that's not the right fit. You're trying too hard to impress. When I met Jen, I was just myself. I wasn't even thinking about a girlfriend, right? And then that's my wife, right? And I think it's the same thing when it comes to client and even jobs, right?
Yep.
When it comes to
exactly.
career, you can go into a workplace, and if you got to try so hard to impress and you're just not natural at it, and you can't just be yourself, it's probably time to find another job. And I learned that over the years because, you know, I took some jobs I hated, the upper management, and there was discrimination or things that was I don't agree with, uncomfortable. But then my Asian mentality kicked in. Okay, it's okay, Kevin. I make excuses for myself. But now I look back, it's not okay. It's not okay to be treated different because of not my skill set or how I work, right? And I think it's the same thing with clients, you know, and for all the people out there that work with clients, right? It's okay to say no. And I know we want to make that extra money, but by, like Hilary said, by giving up those clients, you start feeling freedom.
And you clear this. And you clear the space for the ones that are looking for you. I just got this question. They said, how can you empower women, and it was specifically around women in the workplace, without offending men? And I said, well, I want to know why you're so afraid of offending men. And she said, well, he's a client. And I was like, okay, well then here's the thing. You enabling his behavior is perpetuating his behavior. He's getting away with it. And so if you're afraid of offending him, like it's on you. And I hate to say that negatively, but like it requires every individual to stop a moment. And the greatest irony is this is what I said in the video on IG where the guy like ripped me apart and was like, can you just get to the point? But the point I was making, fucker, was it is on us in the little moments where you see the discrimination happening, when you see the judgment or the bias happening, when you see the rudeness happening, even though I was just rude to this guy, but whatever, I'm not calling out his name. Like it's in that moment where you have to say, you know, like that comment you said was really inappropriate. Like I've had people say, wow, that's some red lipstick you have on there. And I want to be like, wow, that's some bald head. You know, like, what do you want me to say? Like, what am I allowed to say something equal to that about the judgment of your looks? You know, and so we all have these variations of these stories, but I truly believe that the only way change happens really, really, really ingrained in us is our individual responsibility to take a moment and say, that wasn't okay. You know, the way you said that, it was hurtful. And the way you showed up in a certain way is not actually constructive. And so because here's the thing, thoughts turns into words and words turn into action, and that leads to worse things. And so we have to actually move forward. I'm a process person, although I used to be ops for Toyota. So I think very linearly, we have to catch the problem early in the process when it's just a thought. People are like, well, that was such a small thing. I'm like, yeah, because this is when we have to call it out, when it's such a tiny thing, because if we let it get into be a big thing, we have a bigger problem. Lots of good stuff. Lots of good stuff.
So I have been listening to you all and thinking about, I'm one of those that's always like using the phrase, be yourself, you know, be authentic. And then I realized I've come across people that's like, well, what does it mean to be yourself? And then I was like, well, how do I answer that? Because I know what it means for me, but how do you just put that into words or describe it or teach someone how to be themselves? And I think it's pretty, I think you have to know yourself in order to be yourself. So I really think that it's a lifelong journey, but I think, you know, some of us like know more about ourselves than others at different stages of our lives. And as we get older, of course, we know more and more, but and I think there's a lot of acts of bravery, like you're talking about, Hilary. I can think of so many times, not specifically, but just that feeling of going, well, I'm scared to say this, or I'm scared to act this way, or I'm a little bit afraid to wear this, but this is me. So I'm just going to put myself out there, and they can either like me or they don't. And I think that there is a lot of times where we have to be brave whenever we're stepping out of that. Are people going to like me?
Yeah.
But when you're actually talking about being yourself, and I've been thinking about it, I feel that it has to do with your core identity of who you are. So for me, it's really simple. It's personality. I mean, you're the one, you have your own personality, beliefs, core beliefs. You know, the way that you were raised, your parenting can absolutely affect parts of who you are or who you become. So, but I know that a person's beliefs, their passions, their what makes them tick, like what makes them come out of their shell. Like, you know, for example, Kevin and my dad both, they don't like to talk. They're introverts, just very quiet. They don't want to be around a lot of people, just their wives and kids. They prefer to be at home. But as soon as you say something about animals, they will yap your head off. I mean, they'll just go on and on because it is their passion. That's what draws them out. And so, but I think the biggest thing is just self-discovery, slowly, like finding yourself. You know, I've actually done journaling before where I go, what do I really like to do? Not what my parents say that I could do really good at, not not what's popular right now, but what is really who I am internally, my passion. And so out of that, you don't have to go, okay, I need to be myself today. You just naturally become yourself over time. And, you know, and I've had a lot of circumstances, and I do feel sorry for my husband. I'm not going to lie, but he is more like, he was talking about the Asian side of, let's be careful what we say, you know, let's not step on toes, or let's not, you know, fluff up those feathers if we don't really have to, or, oh my gosh, you're getting ready to open a can of worms, you know. And then here, I'm not only American, but I like to talk, and I am very just. So I see something that's not right, it is very hard for me to stay silent. I must speak. And so, you know, sometimes I'll be like, honey, I'm going to say this to my parents, or I'm going to say this to this person. And he's like, no, you don't need to say that. And I'm like, you don't understand. I need to say that, because no one else is going to say that. And I have to release this, because I feel this is wrong. This is bad thinking. This is bad for everybody that's around them. Or, you know, I'm just giving an example. And so sometimes he has to put out the fire and say, I don't think you should start that fire. Because if I start the fire, he has to go through it with me. But I can't stand, what if somebody didn't know something that could be life-changing? What if someone's not challenged in a way that could make a difference in their life, because everybody was afraid to say something? Truth sets us free. And so anyway, that's just me getting to know myself, but also realizing, okay, like you said, where do I want to step out and not wear that blazer? Or where do I want to step out and say, fuck the mold? Or where do I want to, you know, what am I going to pay?
I'm rooting for you.
Yes. So what am I going to pay? Because I have no problem being courageous. I mean, Kevin has to hold me back. So it's more just, where should I be courageous, and where should I be considerate of others? And, you know, what does being myself look like in a culture where a lot of times everybody just kind of stays at the norm? So, yeah.
Anyone want to take a first stab at that?
I wanted to just address what Kevin talked about, being Asian and, you know, being quiet on the job, blah blah blah, and just wait for the next chance or next job, or, you know, job hop, etc. It depends. I think it depends on the company. Say for example, right? I've been in like corporate American MNC probably my whole life, and you can't really build your career if you just, you know, want to fly under the radar. I mean, especially if I'm in marketing, you need to stand out. Whether it's being yourself, or I can't say not being yourself, right? Because that sounds like you're putting on a mask. But my point is, sometimes being yourself will not get you where you want to be in your career. So it actually depends on what position you are in, the company culture, and the boss, right? Because if you are really good and very outspoken more than your boss, you know, your boss might not like that, and, you know, get rid of you the first instant, the first mistake you make, etc., etc. So a lot of these things are very situational. And as much as I would like to say that, yeah, I try to be myself, but sometimes I need to filter myself, take a step back, or not say what's there. There will be times like that, right? But you just have to make that the judgment. And usually I would make that judgment call based on something factual, or if I really feel that this is right or this is wrong, yeah, then I'll speak it. Or if I really feel that this is not my job scope, why am I doing it? And I'll speak it out. And I think that's the way to have that balance, such that, you know, you don't jeopardize your career. But it's not easy because there's so many factors, right? Your boss, the job situation, who you're offending, whether the person will come back and bite you, power in terms of designation, etc., etc. You get the picture. So it's a very hard thing to do.
Yeah, this thing is, I mean, listen, I believe this is one of life's like most worthy and most worthy causes towards self-efficacy. I mean, to be oneself, to have full freedom of full expression, to realize how you are to exist in the world. I mean, what other purpose is there in life? And one of the things you and both Jen really touched on, which is really interesting, is like the judgment that comes with being yourself. And you're right, it comes with risks, and there is context necessary depending on the situation and all that stuff. But I think the point here is like, as human beings, and this is why the human experience is so important to this conversation, and this is why you're seeing the word human in all these new business, advertisements, promotions, websites, etc., is that inherently all of us want to be accepted.
Yep.
It's a human experience. We want to be loved, we want to belong, and we want to be accepted. And so what happens when you show up as different and you break the mold, is that you are suddenly exposing yourself to be judged and to be unaccepted. And that is like a test of our soul. Like, can I still exist in a world where I am not accepted, where I might not belong in this group? And I'm sure all of us here sitting on this call have been in a situation where like we were engaged in a community and we were like, I'm engaged in this community and I'm doing as I'm told, but I don't really belong in this community. Like, these aren't my people, but like I'm showing up, I'm trying to perform, right? And it's letting go of that sense of like performative nature to fit in and belong as the goal, and rather the goal being to fully express who I am in every given moment in time based on my belief systems and who I am internally. And that comes with ramifications. And I think that's kind of what both you and Jen were kind of saying from a work context or an individual context, is like, we have to know when to apply it and also be okay with the outcomes that some people may not like it.
Yeah, and I think that there's a weighing out in like Hilary was saying, in different circumstances. There's times where being yourself may not be worth losing your job, but other times where being yourself would be worth losing your job, but to stand by what you believe. So it just depends.
Can I share a quick story, because it's relevant to a lot of international communities?
Yeah.
So when I was working for Toyota, I was the first female they ever hired to do Kaizen in 14 Asian countries. So if anyone doesn't know Kaizen, it's essentially process improvement, what made Toyota really famous. And
wow,
I was due for a promotion.
Wait, hold on, Hilary, before you go there, how do you get that job in the first place? You must have stood out some way, right?
That's like another
I think that's more important.
Okay. All right. Maybe okay. So let me backtrack. So my family has a history of Japanese culture. My grandfather was in the army. My grandmother really took to the Japanese culture. And so her home was like immaculately perfect and clean, and everything had its place. And we had artwork all over the wall that was like ornate and beautiful. And so as a child, having to take my shoes off at the front door, I was like, what is this place you're talking about called Japan? And for some reason, in a family of 5 children, I was the only one that really took to the culture. And so that was when I was very, very young. And then in middle school, I had a teacher that had adopted a Japanese girl. So the relationship continued. And then my mom started taking Japanese again when I was in high school, and she had gone back to school temporarily. And then it wasn't until I got to college, because I went to inner city public schools, that I was able to actually study Japanese language. And so I studied the language, fell in love with it, totally geeked out, and eventually studied abroad in Japan. And this was pre-2008 financial crisis. So you could probably guess my age. I'm 35, whatever, it's fine. And I studied abroad in Japan. I was offered an internship. I turned it down for a man. And came back to the States for my senior year of college. And I was like, if I'm going to give up something like that, what else am I going to give up? I just was not at that stage of my life to dedicate, my commitments towards men. And as a woman, that's generally what happens. Like, everyone tells you, he's about to put a rock on your finger. Why would you give up? All these things. These are messages that women get. And so I dumped him, bought a one-way ticket to Singapore, and had a goal of securing a job within 2 months. And within 6 weeks, had 5 job offers. And the last one was from Toyota.
Whoa.
So I ended up working for Toyota. And the reason why I was so uniquely positioned was simply because on the outside looking in, it would be like, why would Toyota hire a new hire from the States with no concrete business experience, a woman much less at that, and many other things. But the greatest irony about being yourself is these were all the unique characteristics and traits that they needed in the company at the time. What they were doing was they were bringing these Japanese coordinators from headquarters in Tokyo down to Singapore into the South Pacific, where you have all these different cultures that speak different languages, that wear different things to work, that have different business customs, that eat different food at different business meetings. Like in America, we think of Asia as Asia, and it is not Asia. Like every country is so vastly different. And so they need that. But the problem they had is these Japanese coordinators were coming in and treating things very homogeneously the way Japanese do. Like, this is the way, follow the rules, do not question, right? And so they were failing. They had plenty of Kaizen experts. They didn't need more people experts in operations and process improvement. They needed someone that could work fluidly across these cultures. Naturally, women are good at that because we're nurturers. I was young, so I was energetic. I didn't have a family to go home to. I could travel whenever they wanted me to, and I wanted to. And then also I was American, and I was very conscious of how I used that. But Americans are very likable in Singapore. And so I was very aware, and instead of using it, for power or influence, I used it for good, which is to towards the mission of the business. And so all these things that I saw as on the outside looking in, anyone else would see as a disadvantage. I was young. I was American. I was a woman. I was a native English speaker. I was fresh out of college. Those were exactly the power that I had to offer. Like,
awesome.
And so that's how I ended up at Toyota.
That's a great story. Okay, now you can fast forward.
Right. I forget the original story I was going to tell. Remind me.
Oh, sorry.
I don't even know.
You share with us why what you did at Toyota.
That you said it's a story that helps a lot of people international would understand it.
Yes.
Yep.
So, okay. So essentially what I did at Toyota was working across 14 Asian countries, managing Kaizen change implementation into the dealerships. But what happened was that over time, like as an American woman, I was responsible for a lot of things very fast. So I grew up very fast. I was up for a promotion. And when you put on paper what I was doing, I was leading a team of 10 people at the age of 24, reporting directly to the EVP, traveling 180,000 miles a year for the company, responsible for budgeting, responsible for expense reporting, like all these things at the age of 24. But Toyota had a policy that you couldn't get this certain promotion until you had been with the company for 3 years. And this is the whole fuck the mold thing, right? So I go to my boss, who I had a great relationship with, who was Japanese, and I said, listen, I totally understand there's this policy. I'm not due for the promotion for another year and a half or so. But if you put to paper everything I'm doing, it is directly correlated to this promoted role. Like I am already doing this role that is promoted. And so he said, okay, I see the predicament. Put it to paper, make the argument, I'll get you in front of the SVP. And so I took all the time, I documented everything, I pulled the report together, and it took 3 meetings. It took 3 months. It went past the SVP, past the EVP to the president.
Ooh.
It caused so much disruption, and it finally got approved.
Wow.
And I say this not to like toot my own horn, because the moral of the story is it caused a lot of uproar in the company. People thought I was getting favored because I was American. People thought my boss had a crush on me because I was a woman and whatever, all the stories and rumors started. And it really hurt me because I'm like, no, I just fought for my promotion. Like I just fought my ass off and it got approved. This is a win, right? So one night over drinks, I sat with my boss and I was like, I don't understand. Why is everyone upset? And he said something to me that always really stuck with me. He said, here's the thing, Hilary, it's not that these people don't deserve a similar promotion for themselves, is that they didn't ask for it.
Wow.
And so when you fuck the mold, when you're yourself, when you defend what you believe in, when you stand for your value, when you fight for that promotion, that raise, whatever the story is you're creating, right? And you're breaking down some system, you have to be okay with causing disruption. You have to be okay with like not making people happy. And then there is the component of, and this is what my boss, who had worked around the world at the time, even though he was Japanese, said, like, I actually see this as a great teaching moment for these local Singaporean staff to learn from you that, you know, in all of our cultures, there's no one right way of doing things. Some people could look at me and say, I still don't agree with her. She was wrong to do that. And that's great. That's fine. Like, I see that angle. But if we look at culture and understand and embrace and find the teaching moments where we can learn from each other, I believe there's always a middle path where we can come out stronger, that there's no one right way of doing things. It's how can we still respect each other with our way of doing things.
You see, as a Singaporean, right?
Tell me.
Yeah, that's the thing. We learn to play by the rules, by the policy.
Yep.
That's hence the uproar, right?
Yep.
No way, 3 years. I've been here for 3 years, but this young lady, whatever she did, I'm sure is great, right?
Which I respect.
Yeah, cut that into half. So what's her
Yep.
problem? Her problem is she did 2 things too fast. Slow down. You know, why should she bypass me? I'm playing by the rules, you know. I don't hit 3 years, I'm not up for promotion. You see, but that is exactly the thing, right? If I'm being me Singaporean, right? I don't ask for promotion, I'm not gonna get it. I mean, my whole life, I don't think I've ever asked for a promotion.
It's time to ask, Jeremy.
No, that's not the point.
Fuck the
Move
wall.
up in retail. Let's move up in retail.
I encourage you. If Jeremy's boss is watching, he needs a promotion.
No.
Also,
That's not
his hashtag can become the old retail guy. It's time. It's time.
Okay,
Yeah.
No, that's my point, right? And I think your boss is right. It's a learning point, you know. Hey, wake up, guys! And I think for a lot of people, they for the context, you know, of all those people who are not like so aware of Japanese culture, what Hilary just mentioned, going all that levels up there, is incredibly disruptive. It's probably never going to happen in how many 100 years in Toyota's history. It's groundbreaking and revolutionary to go all that level up because understand the power structure within the Japanese organization, right? You will not push a lot and push this up to your boss, who has to push this up to your boss. It takes a bloody lot of a lot of courage. I just want to put that into context. Yeah, Hilary?
Thank you. The greatest irony is that at the end of the day, I was actually very logical and I was very linear and I was very objective. I'm like, here is the argument. This is not an emotional thing. You know, you have, so there's an exercise I do sometimes with my clients, which is called the stupid rules exercise. And we evaluate what are the stupid rules in your organization that don't make sense, that exist and no one questions and literally don't make sense. And immediately the floodgates open. People know all these stupid rules. Why does this require 3 signatures? Who created this policy in the first place, you know? And people start to question. But if you are in an environment and a work culture that doesn't invite an open dialogue to questioning things, you're an environment that likes to control. And that's right. And that's a dance. That's a balance. I understand why control exists. Standardization exists. And listen, I'm brainwashed by Toyota. Standardization exists to deliver the same level of quality every time. The right way, the right time, every time, right? So I understand why standardization exists, but sometimes things don't make sense. And that rule didn't make sense. And so although it really was destructive, as you described, it was so logical. And it gave Toyota in Singapore at that moment in time a point to really question, does this policy even make sense anymore? Is this the good of people? Does this actually better our employees? Or does it block our employees from growth?
It doesn't
and listen,
block.
what they end up doing with it, that's up to them, right? But
so is that what your book, What One White Face, is about?
One White Face is it's a narrative nonfiction about working for Toyota. So it explores concepts around self-discovery, around identity, around Americans feeling like a minority for the first time. You know, it's very unusual for white Americans to feel like a minority ever in their life, ever. We can't go very many places and feel like a minority. It's very real. And
go Middle East.
I'm used to it.
Go Middle East. Yeah, third world. That's your opinion.
Yeah, and I know that, but like first of all, in 1990, only 4% of Americans had passports. In 2020, 40% of Americans have passports. So it's a huge leap. That's why you see Americans becoming more conscious, more human, more worldly, more globally, despite the challenges and the time it's taken. It is getting there. But Middle East is like, I mean, they're going to go to Spain, Italy, and like Cozumel before they go to the Middle East. And that's just the nature of humans. Like, we're going to go to the next step that's comfortable. Me, I'm like, I'm going to go as far away as possible. So I'm a little bit of an anomaly.
Well, awesome. Hilary, I think your story is awesome. I do understand that the Asian thinking from their side, how they must be feeling.
Yeah.
But I like what you did. And I think, like, just like you said, if you didn't put it out there as what it was, you wouldn't have been able to get what you deserved. And also, people with that foresee or have those leadership skills, they're the ones that change things. They're the ones that typically, if they're good people, make things better for everybody else. And so I think, I'm sure that you've gotten slack for that, but I think it's awesome. And I know that it's awesome. So, but I can also understand, I can understand the Asian mindset there as well. Absolutely. So I am a lover of all Asian series, from Korean to the Cantonese to Mandarin. I watch all of them. Jeremy knows. And so I could probably send you a few titles of a series that match your exact story.
Oh my gosh, please do.
Yes, within companies and startups, but especially like the big companies, there's always rivalry. There's always jealousy of everybody following the rules and just the Asian culture aspect. And I love it. I dine on that stuff.
I just really believe that no one right way is perfect. I think Americans have a ton we can learn from the East. I mean, let's not even get started on that. And the East has a ton we can learn from America. And it's just when to apply what, right? And so, this is the bashing of the heads between individualism and collectivism. And I truly believe that when we learn how to find that middle path, we will be better as a whole. Like, we won't be this East versus West thing. We'll be this, more fusion culture as a world where we know when to be individual and apply our individual needs, and we know when to be collective.
And I think
exactly.
We're 100%. Go ahead, Jeremy.
That's exactly what we're trying to do here. The 4 or 5 of us.
Yep.
Right, Kevin, that was your vision.
Exactly. So, and that's the beauty too, I think, when we talk about, especially during these times, right? You're seeing so much division, not just in the US, but in the world, right?
Yeah.
And it's the lack of being able to understand perspectives, being able to accept differences and learning from each other, like what you just said. I think a lot of people, we have a lot of pride. The Chinese think, our way is the best. The Americans think their way is the best. The Japanese. And it's like, why can't we just learn from each other? And the world is closer than ever before. Even during this pandemic, we saw how close we got because of technology. You can hop on a call like this and talk to Jeremy and Eldrick, who's thousands of miles away, right? Like, we're in the same room and have these discussions, right? There's no limitations. You can be a small business owner and talk to an executive and interview them on a podcast. You couldn't do that any other time.
I give you a better example, Kevin.
Yep.
All it takes is one ship to be stuck on the canal, and you suddenly realize how small the world is.
Exactly.
Everyone's impacted, you know. My mom asked me to go and buy toilet paper because you're not going to get toilet paper again.
My dad sent us to buy gas because he said, "Oh, it's stuck, and then maybe we won't have what we need." And he's like, "The price is going to go up tomorrow. Run get gas tonight." You know. And then you're like, "Yeah, that's crazy." So and then you see that one little bulldozer working on moving it, and it's like, what is going on?
But the funny thing is, so my previous occupation before I started my business was in logistics, so global logistics software.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm connected to all these people, and you know, it's crazy, right? Everyone's stressing and everything. But you know, like I knew that it was going to get taken care of because they're losing money. So when money's lost, things get going really fast. So someone's going to work on it. So
You were talking, Kevin, and I want to just ask everyone, have you seen the new Bruce Lee documentary?
There's been a lot of Bruce Lee documentaries.
Yeah. I know, right? It's on the Delta plane right now.
Which one?
It's on the Delta plane right now. But he's quoted and he's talking about his style, and people are like asking him, you know, are you Kung Fu style? Are you this? Are you that? Whatever. And he said, that's the problem. It's like if you are in a style, then there's this rigidity to it, and you can't actually do the job well. And I'm totally terribly quoting him right now, right? So please, everyone, just go watch the documentary for a better quote. But he's like, I'm not Chinese style, I'm not this style, I'm not karate, I'm not that, I'm not this. Like, I am everything. And I was like sobbing. I was like, yes, Bruce Lee, yes.
you should read his book, Tale of Jeet Kune Do.
Oh, I should.
And how he formulated Jeet Kune Do is really unique, and it's exactly what you talked about.
And it's like, if we have these rigid structures and we can't go outside of them, we're never going to move forward. We're never going to learn. We're never going to grow. It's like, it seems so obvious to me. I don't know.
Yep.
So this is a little bit, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about a while ago, but it also goes along with everything. So, you know, imagine for us, like Kevin and I are raising mixed kids. So they know that they're half Chinese, and they know that they're half American. And I would say our home is more Chinese. I would say probably 80 to 90% Chinese than it is American, because I know when they go out to school and the friends and the culture, everything is going to be very Americanized. And so they're going to get the American part, you know, and then I am somewhat American. So obviously they're going to get that. But I'm just saying, the way we eat, a lot of the way we communicate and talk, sometimes the way I raise them is a little bit more of the Asian mindset, but they can choose, how do I identify? Who do I feel that I am? But what I'm getting at is, what's amazing is that my 8-year-old son comes and starts to tell me his feelings. And he said, and he started asking all these questions. Why are they treating, you know, Asians this way? Or why are Americans doing this? Or why is this going on in the world? Like, he just doesn't understand why it would be like that. You know, we're all human. So I don't understand these hatreds and these feelings and these things that are happening to people. Why would they hit an old lady? You know? And so I just wanted to share that, because if anybody has any thoughts on that, I was like, how do I answer that? I mean, obviously not everybody's bad. Just because you're American doesn't mean you hate an Asian. Just because, you know, there's bad people in the world everywhere doesn't mean that every person is bad. So it's just like, it's been really interesting with what's going on in our culture right now, and the misunderstandings, miscommunications that have been there, and having a half child that is right now identifying as more Asian. And he goes, Mommy, maybe I'm scared to go out now because maybe somebody will hurt me. I'm like, dude, nobody's touched the kid yet. I'm pretty sure you're fine. He's like, but I look very Chinese. And so it's just been kind of, I know that's kind of, in a sense, a new topic, but it kind of goes along with it's really.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people hurting. If you look at the end of it, at the end of the day, it's people who are hurting. And the more we're compassionate towards the fact that, Republicans are hurting, conservatives are hurting, liberals are hurting, Democrats are hurting, men are hurting, women are hurting. Like, this is a incredibly collective experience. And the more we recognize that everyone is justified in their hurt and their pain and their suffering, I think it makes us all better, and it makes us have more compassion and empathy for how do we resolve this and how do we move forward. And people need to be held accountable for their actions by all means. But I think we'll become a more kinder and safer world if we're more compassionate.
Absolutely.
That's really good.
Audrey, I hate to call you out, but you've been incredibly quiet.
That's what I thought as well.
It's inappropriate for you, okay?
We're not used
inappropriate.
to
I okay, so if you're into the big five in terms of the personality, on one spectrum, I do stand out a lot because I'm an extreme outlier. I'm very, very high on disagreeableness. I'm extremely high. So typically, I should say this. I grew up in a family where both my parents are extremely agreeable. And if not for my aunt's intervention, I would have gone that way. So my aunt's lesson, I don't think she mentioned to me as a lesson explicitly, but she would always ask me, tell me what you think is wrong about this. Because I'm very agreeable. So she forces me to say, tell me what's wrong with this. So over time, when that thinking is ingrained in me, it becomes very natural for me to just, is there something wrong with what you just said? And I don't mean that it has to be something wrong with age, gender, race, and whatever. Whether you're conservative, you're liberal, that's Canada. Whether you're Republican or Democrat or independent, whatever, that's the US, right? The point is this: put forth what you think, and regardless of the strength and intensity of what you're saying, let's stretch out the argument. Because everything that is complex enough to be a society's issue, these topics will never go away.
Yes.
Let's stretch it out. Discrimination, right? Okay, let's talk about an attack on an Asian old lady, right? Let's say, hypothetically, is that ageism? You're attacking an old lady. Is that about the gender? You're attacking a female. Is that about the race? You're attacking an Asian. Okay, come on. What is it? Is it about, do you have something against the Asians? Or do you have something against the female? Or you have something against ageism? Which individually, they are very common. Now, you might not think that ageism is something that should be espoused. Right, true. What about workplace discrimination based on age? Like, oh, you're 50, time to be retired. Doesn't that happen every day? So don't give me that bullshit, right? So things like that, they are extremely complicated and it's woven into our societies. I think there's just one common thread that runs across all. You look different. That's it. You look different.
Yeah.
And therefore, if anything happens, I'm going to suspect you first. I think there's many game theory experiments that are being done if you're in an environment where everyone is seemingly normal and the boss allows an ex-prisoner to join the company. Whenever something happens, the first suspect is always the ex-convict. So he has a different game to play. He has a different set of circumstances to deal with, right? Whenever something happens, the first instinct is, okay, I have to prove my innocence first. You know, okay, guys, it's fine. Let me tell you what I've been doing. I have my alibi. I was doing that. I'm not near the cashier till. It's not me. Check my schedule. Okay? I proved my innocence. Now I shut up. Say whatever you want. and let's see who else is in the picture. So I think we have to deal with circumstances in a very different way. Just given your experience, Hilary, I mean, if it's a matter of like, it could be true, but I'm just stretching it, right? If it's one American in an environment where everyone else is extremely agreeable, standing out is not an issue. It's not an issue. But the reverse is not true. If there's only one person that is extremely agreeable and everyone else is vocal, that guy is going to be lost in transition. No one knows he exists at all. For that guy to fight for a promotion is close to zero. His chance is zero. How do I promote you? I don't even know you. Where were you? Where were you? What were you doing? Where were you? What were you doing? How much sales revenue do you bring in? What's the number of people that you're leading? None. Because that poor chap got drowned. So I think that context is everything. I think that it's very important to be very comfortable with ourselves. And that points to what Jennifer just mentioned, be yourself. How do you know that you are yourself? Well, that's easy. What do you disagree with? That's definitely you. That's definitely you. What do you agree with? Okay, that's confusing, right? Because you can agree with because your parents taught you that, society taught you that, or you really believe in it. But what do you disagree with? It's definitely you. I disagree with this because, listen to yourself. You don't buy that crap. You don't buy that crap. So to me, it has been something that is not very difficult. It's not. I disagree with a lot of things. Now, but being disagreeable doesn't mean that I'm going to destroy the way things are being done.
Yeah.
Because I recognize that when it comes to an ecosystem, it's complex. The exercise that you're talking about, which is stupid policies, the exercise that you're talking about, I think is beautiful. But at the same time, the takeaway and the revelation that I'm going to have from that exercise is that there will be predominant thinkers that sets the policies, and there will be the predominant doers who can reflect on the policies and say, that's crap, but I'm still going to do it because I don't want to think about it. So there will be people that's breaking the rules. Great, right? And the creative people, those who think that they want to run a business. But as the business evolves, as you scale up, you're going to need people who can, how should I say this? Like, drive that vehicle as fast as possible, as safely as possible, knowing that there are guardrails, so I don't lose my life. There will be such people that are looking for guardrails. So if you want to scale your company, if you are looking for people to focus on operations, well, create the guardrails. But the person that's creating the guardrails will not be the person that's going to be at the front of the vehicle, because the person that's creating a guardrail is going to be someone that is thinking, but he might not do what he thinks. He just thinks that that's the good thing to do, and he'll push it out. Guys, go do it. So there's a lot of complexity in that. In part, I think this is my quietest episode in terms of behavior, because I was thinking about all the, how should I say this? I think that a society comes into being. Because it's a mixture of all sorts of forces coming through together, whether it's a societal force, economic force, demographics being the biggest one, right? So the growing population and then the millennials and things like that. So I'm just trying to figure out, like, what is the best way to take a conversation ahead? What's the best way to construct the strongest argument, stretching it out and listening to the brilliant points that's coming from both ends of the spectrum? I think that's the way to do it. It's easy to say this is discrimination, but what exactly is that? Is it insecurity coming from you? Is that really like that race is more superior than you are inferior, or you have an inferior complex, or you're scared of people that has a different color, who speak a different language? You don't respect people that are older than you. What is it, right? But if we are not willing to go there, we're just going to be very superficial. So you're just going to see a lot of movements that's going to come up, like, what was the previous one? The Black Lives Matter, and then now on the Asian violence and whatsoever. You don't want that to just be movements. You want it to be a good discussion, isn't it? Then we can evolve. So what that entails is that we need to get very comfortable articulating things that are uncomfortable, which are not supposed to be discriminatory in nature. It's critical thinking. So for the first time in this conversation, I'm just going to say, for fuck's sake, speak your mind. I mean, what's wrong with that?
I'm pretty sure that's the real Aldrich. Sorry, go ahead.
He's back! Yay!
Finally.
No, I was just thinking about the various points that was being brought forth in the entire show, and I was just trying to, like I mentioned multiple times, just trying to stretch out the entire argument to see what exactly is it with us. I mean, overall, like a living species, like, what the hell is wrong with us? That's it.
That's what my son asked you.
I think at the end of the day, it comes down to we're all humans, and it's like Hilary said, you're born. The day you're born, we have the natural need for love, the natural need for attention, the natural need for touch. I don't care if you're an introvert, you still need that in order to survive. And in order to why does these social media platforms exist? The business model exists because humans need attention, and that's why it survives, it's a moneymaker. Every day, Facebook, LinkedIn, doesn't matter, Clubhouse. We are hungry for attention. We're hungry to be heard. And that's why these companies exist. And that is human. And I think certain cultures, we are not taught to voice our opinion. We don't have the freedom, right? A lot of times. And the fear. And I think that's what it comes down to. And like Eldrick said, in order to have a discussion, someone has to voice. Just like within our group. If we're quiet, no one says anything, we just expect that person to have no opinion, right? Until we voice, then someone else is going to share or go, hey, I disagree with you. This is my thoughts. And I think there's a need globally for us to voice ourselves. And right now, if you look at social media data, just happens I'm a digital marketer, right? Majority is driven US only. It's predominantly a US platform. It's not really a global perspective. And that's why Bottoms Up was born. I was like, there's a lack of, it's all West perspective. All these live shows are from the West. When have you seen the last LinkedIn Live that's from India or Cambodia or Vietnam or South Africa? Yeah, they might be a guest on a podcast. I haven't seen one birth out of there. And I was like, hey, we all need our voices if we want to understand operations. We want to understand marketing. And Hilary, you can attest to it because you were in a different culture. Marketing can't be marketing just based on U.S. perspectives, because how do you market Coca-Cola in Asia? It's going to be totally different than marketing Coca-Cola in the U.S. So, but human-wise relationship, we talk about, you hear all these people on social media talk about, you just have passion, you just, love this, or you just have, if your culture's different, you just start a side hustle, YouTube. Okay, I live in Cambodia, and $1 a day would be awesome. Okay, how am I gonna go start a YouTube when internet's not even available? So let's look at all those things. Let's talk perspective here, and that's why I think it's so important that we forget it's not just us in this little bubble in this first world issues, but there's a global situation going on every day. There's global things at play, you know, even during this pandemic, right? Yeah, everyone's getting vaccines. It's getting better. There's countries that aren't getting vaccines because they can't afford it.
Exactly.
It's the reality, you know, and that's just the truth. And we got to talk about all those things in order to really see the world for what it is.
Absolutely.
You know, so
that's been really hard to watch, I have to say, from just seeing that on the news. And, you know, it's talking about, at least from our side, I don't know about you guys, Jeremy and Aldrich, but from our side, just seeing and thinking about those countries that can't get it, that can't afford it, or that don't have the logistics, you know, because some of those have to have like super, super cold in order to hold them.
Yeah.
You know, and then think about transporting that across Africa and how the roads are. And, you know, and I'm sure that there's parts of Africa that are really nice, but I'm saying as a whole, because it's so large. So it's so sad. It is sad.
I think at the end of the day, one of the things that Aldrich said that really resonated with me, at least, is the idea of critical thinking. And if you think of power, influence, money, and control, they don't want you to question. Government doesn't want you to question. CEOs don't want you to question. I mean, Elon Musk doesn't want you to question. As much as he says he wants you to question, he doesn't want you to question. He's like, I'm going to rule space. Like, okay, we should probably question that. Love the guy for his contrarian nature. However, we should probably question that.
He's very highly disagreeable.
Yeah.
But he is, what's that term? I think most people will call him a beta male, like Bill Gates. Like they are very gentle in their appearance. But deep down, their character, they are like, deep down. But when I'm out there, California need us.
Yeah, I mean, that dude says one thing on Twitter about a cryptocurrency and like the numbers go crazy.
Because I know everyone's going to go crazy.
Yeah.
So it helps me in a way.
Listen,
anyway.
I own cryptocurrency. I listen to what he says. Like, I am a victim as well. But
that's awesome.
What happened? What happened to your critical thinking?
I know, but I don't have power. That's the problem. I'm just making money off of Elon Musk. Okay, I just admit it. However, the thing is, like, if you really question those in power, those that are defining the rules, like they do not want us to question. They want to control. And so this isn't like some conspiracy theory. Like, this is just power. Study history. Like, this is not anything new. And so when you look at companies, when you look at organizations, when you look at families, when you look at countries, like, you have to really question, what is the mold that I'm trying to, perform within? And is it right for me? I mean, in my family, and I don't mind saying this at all, I have 4 siblings and 1 mom. My father passed away when I was a baby in a car accident. And all 5 of them, every single one of my family members is conservative. They all are Republican, and I am not. I don't really think I'm really anything. I don't really know what the heck I am. I have like an identity crisis. However, I'm not Republican. And not to talk about politics, because that's really the irrelevant point here. But the point is, I broke their system. They had this system. They had this mold of a family structure, and I broke it. And so I get marginalized. I get ostracized, and I have to continue to fight every day to be me, to fight for what I believe in, even if that means I risk losing part of my family. Even if that means I'm rejected from my family. Like, I know what I believe, and they know what they believe. And so I think that's the ultimate fight for all of us in terms of self-efficacy and actualization, is like, how do we learn, seek knowledge, and, continue to nurture that growth within ourselves to be ourselves.
Yep. And being yourself, I think, is also accepting the fact that, hey, you aren't going to win them all. You're going to have your haters. The more you're yourself, You're going to have people who don't like you, who don't
So
agree
true.
with you, and it's okay. And that's why I'm so big on, hey, you have to find your tribe, the people that believe in you, the people that truly stand behind you, that agree with you without you trying. As soon as you get into this
so
place where
true.
you have to try, even within your family, I have to learn that even myself,
Oh, I
My
gave up on
entre-
my family long time
Yep.
ago.
My entrepreneur journey started taking off when I broke the mold. I was like, okay,
No, you fucked the mold.
Yeah,
Let's be really clear,
yeah,
Kevin.
exactly.
You didn't
Fuck the
break
mold.
it.
Yeah, you go,
I'll
hey,
speak on your behalf. It's okay.
exactly. Thank you. I was like, this isn't true.
I got your back.
What they told me isn't true. It's like, hey,
Yeah.
let's do something different. This is not normal. This is what I'm naturally gifted at. This is what I am I love being an entrepreneur, and that's what I want to do. And it just comes natural to me since I was 6 years old, And I think when things becomes unnatural, that's when you're not being yourself. Yourself require zero work, people. So if you want to be authentic on social media, you want to post content that is original, you don't have to sit 30 minutes to think about your post. As soon as you're thinking about your post and what you want to say, that's not you, people.
Can I show you something?
As soon as you look at someone else's post, like, oh, let me go back to Gary's post, Gary V's post, or this. That's not you. That's Gary's post.
Okay,
so stop it.
I love this.
Go, Hilary, go.
I only love this because I literally did this like 5 minutes before we hopped on. And so it's super hyper relevant. I posted we were like getting ready to hop on. And I was like, oh my God, this day started so rough. I'm feeling so much better at the end of the day. And I basically posted this like before and after. But it just so happens this morning, I posted this photo. We'll see if we can like see it in the camera here. But like, okay, this is me on IG, okay?
Yep.
This is me walking through downtown Austin with hair in my face. And it was a cluster. Like I slept in, I didn't work out, I didn't eat breakfast. The sky was gray and there was tons of wind. And I was basically like, okay, lots of wind, people, lots of wind. There's wind, hair in my face, lots of wind.
Oh my
And then this is how I ended my day, okay? On my couch, I had 2 interviews today, 2 happy clients, connected with my community, called my mom, and my feet are propped, And I basically was like, don't let the rough days ruin you. Control your energy, control your perspective. You have the power to change everything in a mere moment. And the funny thing is, this took me like 30 seconds. I was like, boom, 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 whatever. Normally, I'd be like, oh, I don't know about that angle. Okay, that's not really what I mean. Let me rephrase that. Let me show up a certain way. And I'm like, I don't give a flying fuck. Like, I have places to be and people to see, like I got other things to talk about. The whole point is this morning started like a clusterfuck. It ended really well. That is the learning lesson. Do not let a rough start to your day, So yeah, this is the exact example. Like, and I will like attest to the fact that I was not always this way. I showed my perfect self. I showed all my great moments. One of the best things that someone ever said to me in a podcast interview was, don't project an image of look at me. Tell the story of come with me.
Love it.
Not this, look at me, look at me, look at me, come with me. Like there is more, come be with me, come experience this. And I was like, oh, I was the look at me for like a solid 11 years. Like, look at me, look at the speaking engagement, look at this book, look at blah, blah, blah. Now I don't really care.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Come
it's
with me.
Amazing when you change that perspective, because I realized it myself when I started changing the content. And I was like, I don't care if you like it, if you give me a thumbs up, comment. I don't even look at engagement nowadays. I don't care. It just got to the point. I'm going to tell my story. I'm just going to document my journey. This is what I do every day. If you like me, you like me. If you don't, you don't.
Exactly.
Things started changing. I have more followers in like 10, 20 daily. That don't even like my posts. They're just, I'm scanning followers and people saying, hey, thank you for sharing this. And there's beauty in being yourself.
Exactly.
When you're yourself, people want to connect with you. And people know. And I think we're in a world where I always say social media is like a mirror. It just reflects who we are as humans. You know, all it is a piece of software, and it's you who put the photo in the frame. So stop blaming social media for what it is. It's you. You know, whatever we put out there is the vibe you'll get back. You know, so the truth is, you just gotta be honest with yourself, and it's okay. What you post is the people you'll start attracting. And I started seeing better clientele as well. So, yeah.
And I think I can speak for Kevin. Probably at least half of our posting is while we're sitting in the bathroom going. I mean, and like sometimes I'll be taking care of my kids, or just something they say, or you know, like I even turned my water bottle and puppy. Like my puppy will walk by and lick my water bottle lid when the lid is down toward the floor. So I have to hold it up now. And I turned that into a post and related it to business.
Okay,
and,
so that's the secret, right? Do your post when you're in the bathroom, because that's when you're most vulnerable.
You're very vulnerable.
Then you go viral.
It's called,
and you're not wasting time, Jeremy. You're being very productive while you're in the bathroom.
Yeah,
now I know.
One, it's
now I know the secret.
Time is money. Okay, so be productive. Number two, you've got the time because you're kind of stuck there. Number three, it is your major point where you're releasing.
No inhibitions.
Release the information, release the knowledge, release the thoughts.
Oh my gosh.
That's why Aldrich takes his laptop in there.
I bring my phone. I don't bring my laptop.
Oh, okay. Your phone. Yes.
And I do that. What you just mentioned. But,
I do that.
Yeah. But I think it depends on the kind of things that I'm focusing on, and just one point to add on in terms of finding the tribe and the people who back you, which is the common thread that Hilary and Kevin and Jennifer has been saying. The point about finding your tribe is that you have to find them. You got to find them, because there's a lot of people that's going to be on social media platforms, but the way you want to associate yourself with people can be very different. For those people who's trying very hard to be an overall social media influencer, you got to. I mean, there are those. You can't be copy and pasting your content post and replicate it across all. It's not gonna work. Just forget it. It's not gonna work. So if that is what you would like to become, then look at what works in each platform, right? So if you're in Facebook, try to be a community mouse. If you're Instagram, look like a model, not too showy, but look like a model, look good.
Look at me.
Yeah, look. I mean, whatever, right? And then when you're on LinkedIn, you suit up a little. You go into TikTok. You can try to be an idiot. I don't know how to describe that, but right?
Pretty much, right? Pretty much.
So yeah. So the thing is, if that is what you are after. Oh, and then if you hop onto YouTube, you can go on 2-hour, lesson that you can teach someone. It takes a lot.
I love all your stereotyping. What about Clubhouse?
Clubhouse, I don't know. I'm not there yet. I don't think I'm gonna get there.
Those are just
it's
the
too noisy
talkers.
for my own good. But anyway, platforms, right? So that's the case. I mean, like, you got to find your own way. If you resonate via identity, then you got to know where these people are. Like marketers, where will they be? Where will they be? Right?
Everywhere.
I mean, in a way. Or the tougher ones.
There's too many of us.
The tougher ones are those professions that take up a lot of time at their work, so they're not posting. I mean, like, if you look at finance professionals, it's very difficult to find them. So what you want to do is to experiment a little. Like, okay, I do it here, I do my post here, I do my post there. Do I get to find people on my profile? if you do, then from there, move on, right? So I was sharing with Kevin that recently I pay a little bit more attention to my Twitter account because I'm trying to get my Medium and Vocal articles out. And I realized that the writers community is in Twitter. I was shocked. So, why are you guys here? I'm still trying to figure it out. But they are there and they were exchanging their viewpoints and they were giving like feedback on the stories and the articles that other writers are writing. I was like, oh, wow, that's great.
So they like to tweet. They like to tweet.
Yeah, and that's great.
So does that make Donald Trump a writer?
I'm not too sure about that, but if you think about it, there are always power players who can move the world. It's the same weapon. It's the same weapon. It's the same thing why Hilary does her trade when Elon Musk says something, right? But the thing is that if you want to have someone to back you, you got to find them, and it takes some time. Yeah. So do not be too. How should I say this? Just forget about the results and things like that. Just focus on finding the people who think like you, even though they do not look like you. But what do I mean by that? I would love to have my ideas cross-pollinated with a writer that is based in Sudan, Zimbabwe, Germany, Russia, because the topics can be the same. What changes is the perspective. And when our minds collide, the writing gets better. So don't think too much about this kind of things. Just go ahead and really go see where they hang out. I think that works.
So you will never find Aldrich on TikTok because he shares his perspective.
I think there's a natural bandwidth to how much I can do now. because I'm spending more time on social publishing platforms, more than social media these days, and I'm also looking at the potential of NFTs, which is non-fungible tokens. Yep. That is that level of tokenization that sits on top of Ethereum, and I was thinking, oh wow, I think that's. I thought that was another fad, but when I really get my hands deep and I try to understand it, I was like, hey, there's a lot of good stuff there. Despite all the scams, despite all the naysayers and whatsoever, that was like, I was trying to hack. I was just trying to hack, like, oh, is that a viable commercial model behind tokenization?
Aldrich, you know Kevin's teasing you though, right? Because you don't even have to explain why you're not on TikTok because we already understand.
I can try to be an idiot.
But it's the same reason why I'm not on TikTok.
I think that's all the more reason you should be on TikTok.
I'm not on TikTok because I don't know how to use it. So I'm just going to be honest. So I just have a TikTok for my dog because that way I can practice my skill set and make better videos when it's time for me to be on there.
What were you going to say, Hilary? What were you going to say a while ago? You said truth. I'll tell you the truth or something like that.
Ah, shucks, I lost it. I have no idea.
It went out.
So, well, before we end the night, Hilary, what's the best way for our audience, the ones that stuck with it, to follow you and to even...
Yeah. All right, so it depends on your purpose.
Before that, I have a request, if you can, and if you're comfortable with it, can you just briefly share with us your little your experience with COVID and how you felt and that recovery? How is it like? If you don't
fortunately,
mind.
I found out that I didn't have COVID.
Okay.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's great. So it's a false positive or?
Yeah. I was just working too much.
That is not a bad thing.
My immunity just dropped.
That is not a bad thing.
Yeah. So I'm a big believer, and we always used to say at Toyota, it's about using it. The tool is not the tool. The tool is not the thing to blame. It's how you use the tool. A sword can be used to protect, and it can be used to kill. And so with all social media, it depends on your purpose. I'm the most prolific in terms of writing on LinkedIn. So if you want to engage in writing and commentary, LinkedIn's where to find me. I'm the most personal on IG. So if you want to get to know me personally, find me on IG. I'm the most opinionated on Twitter. Twitter's where I go and like motherfucker. Awesome. Get a life. So if you want my opinions, go to Twitter. And then what am I missing?
Instagram.
TikTok.
No,
IG
so
done,
I'm not on TikTok only because I'm afraid of being controlled by China,
Facebook.
but that's a whole nother conversation that will keep us here all night. Oh yeah, Facebook. So
Facebook.
yeah, if you're on Facebook, find me, but I'm not really that engaged. But in general, I would say LinkedIn is where I spend most of my time. I'm a big proponent that the business world needs more of the personal angle, the ability to show more sides of yourself other than what you know. I want people to be able to show who they are. And so I spend a lot of my time on LinkedIn predominantly. And then once Clubhouse goes on Android, I'll be there, but just waiting patiently.
That's awesome. Now
with my Google Pixel. That controls the world.
So, hey, thanks for being on the show tonight, and we appreciate having you.
Y'all are delightful. You are a blessing in this world.
Have your perspective. And then just want to say thank our sponsor, StreamYard, for making it all possible so we can be everywhere. And appreciate all the viewers, that hop on. And I know there's going to be more after the show as well. And look, like John just jumped back on after his meeting. So, so awesome. Hey, John. So John lives in Japan. So, and
amazing.
Yeah. So he moved from America to Japan with his wife and kids. So, yeah. So
I'm sure he has a lot of stupid rules he has to abide by.
Yep.
Just the reality. We all do.
Yep. So,
well, thank you for having me. It's such a delight, and you guys are such a gift to the world. So I really appreciate you sharing your platform with me.
Yep. One more thing before we end the night. What's one golden nugget that you can throw out there to our viewers about being themselves?
Oh, I thought you were going to say golden nugget. Can I just stick with the golden nugget thing?
Let's stick with the golden nugget.
All right. I will share something with you that will blow all your minds. In your email inbox, because everyone right now is trying to protect their time, energy, etc. Go in and create an unsubscribe folder. What do I mean by this? You name a folder called unsubscribe, and then you go into your filters and you create a filter that says any email that contains the word unsubscribe, send to this folder called unsubscribe. You're welcome, Jeremy. You can thank me later.
I'm thanking you now.
Awesome.
I will save you 20 emails a day from your inbox. It automatically goes into the folder. And then I have a Friday checklist that closes out my week. And one of the things in there is to go to my unsubscribe folder and filter through, because some newsletters or some emails I actually want to read. And then some I'm like, how the fuck did you get my email? I don't even know who you are. Unsubscribe, unsubscribe, unsubscribe. And then some weeks you want to read the newsletter, some weeks you don't really care, move on. I probably read now, I only maybe open one out of every 20 to 30 emails that contain the word unsubscribe. So go set up a filter, unsubscribe, forward to the folder called unsubscribe. It will save your life.
Thank you.
That's a great organizational tip too, just for separating out things.
Good hack.
That's awesome. Love it.
Yep.
Yes. You're welcome.
I'm doing that after we get off of here.
It's going to change your life.
Yep. I'm going to do it tomorrow morning. So
thank you all so much. It was such a blessing.
All
Thank you,
Hilary.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Good night.
Later.